Lady Blake. And I am communing with you in this place. But I am from another time and space. I am Lady Blake Ophelia Stratum, of the House of Stratum, last surviving keeper of memory of the great Macroma Empire. You may call me Lady Blake. Queen Machilia. Queen Machilia is the mother of all memory keepers. I am her yo-yo, her peekaboo. I am her child. She held safe the sacred rituals and memories of the Macroma people. She realized that at a young age, I too could store memories inside my body the way she did. And so she taught me the way of my people. The songs, the rituals, the prayers, how to read the book of echoes. This is where Macroma's greatest memories are immortalized. You see, it is the way of the Macroma to recall memory, to speak the names of our ancestors, keep them on our tongues, in our mouths, keep their spirits alive, so we remember how to survive. For we are Yekunkum, we are Katawood people, we are the mighty Macroma. And this is our oath. Recall memory. Say it with me. Recall memory.
Recall memory.
Know what came before.
Know what came before.
Remember their sacrifices.
Remember their sacrifices.
Say their names.
Say their names.
I can feel you wondering about my name. Lady Blake, Ophelia Stratum. Queen Ophelia named me after the newcomers. These newcomers would return to destroy our world, erase our memory, our stories, our identity. In a final bid to save us, Queen Ophelia and the elders safeguarded inside me our sacred stories, rituals, our memories, and threw me across space and time, protected by the Afana, the Abeng, the Book of Echoes, and the Kuri, keys to remember what time may forget.
I am indigenous. I am black. I am woman. And I am queer. I'm Simone Harris. I am that is chromantic for maroon child. I am second generation Maroon descendant of Nanny of the Maroons, chief warrior of the Windward Maroons of Jamaica. No, say Nanny fight. By himself, Nanny fight. Because him was the fighter. Nanny at the head. Fi fight. And so, as a descendant of Maroons, a true blue, a true born descendant of Maroons, this accessing of embodied memory becomes the thing that guides me. And so I go back. I keep going back to Maroon country. I keep going back to activate, to remember. Down in the wood there, him cannot find them. Him can't find them. Because them now wash clothes. Them no wear clothes. Them gone. Them hot more. Them gone in a fighting. So them couldn't manage them. Them couldn't manage them. Granny Nanny have a pot. It boil up. And she sit down there, she not pay them no mind. And everyone that come and see the pot is a stone dead man. You get that? Drink this. Taste this island on your tongue, cool and wet. Eat this. It is the texture of dawn, where you sense spirits here, and voiceless spirits to whom no spirit or pundit bid farewell. Silent ones who appear to you in dreams. You do not know their names. They demand recognition. You have forgotten them, like the names of your ancestors. Sometimes, when the moon is full and the pool is bright, you can see him dancing in the places where electric lights have no power.
Take your kuri. Take it. Let us take a breath together. Feel the weight of the kuri against your fingers. Recall the memories that time has tried to forget. I will read something for you from the Book of Echoes. Do you weep when you ponder? Recall a time when all was not yet plundered. When leaves were green, light was bright, skies were beams of light. Recall a time of truth, when bloodlines meant a sacred oath, a duty known and kept, and not weeping mothers to protect. Do you weep when you ponder? Or can you reflect on days gone by and even days not yet? Have you felt a feeling? Have you heard the knock? Feeling still awakened by some place you forgot? Can you feel the spirit? Does it move you sane? Will you let them in? I ask you, will you say their names? Chakamiara ye, Queen Makilia o, Chakamiara ye, Sister Ruto, Chakamiara ye. An manino chakamiara ye abimbola o chakamiara ye ash Queen Makilia. Do you weep if you ponder? How can we forget these memories locked in, waiting for our breath? Ash, ash, from the Book of Echoes. I carry with me the spirit of Queen Makilia. I carry her pakit, these songs, these rituals, these prayers. These are the sacred love languages of the Makroma. As we journey today, let us declare together, recall memory. Say it with me. Recall memory.
Recall memory.
Know what came before.
Know what came before.
Remember their sacrifices.
Remember their sacrifices.
say their names.
Say their names.
Queen Makilia, say their names. Sister Ruth, say their names. And Manning, say their names. Say their names. Say their names. Say their names. Medasi, Medasi, Medasi.
Good night.
Medase. Touch me. Hey, Ashton.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ashton Cooper. I am an associate curator here at the Art Center, and I'm here today with Simone Harris, Lady Blake, and Christine Rebet. Simone is visiting us this week from Kingston, Jamaica. She is an artist, medium, activist, educator, community organizer, and cultural strategist, working at the intersection of art, heritage, and social change. In 2019, Simone launched Walking Tall Jamaica, a cultural movement using stilt walking to reclaim Afro-Caribbean heritage, strengthen community, connection, and activate embodied memory through performance. And you may have seen her on her stilts earlier today in the lobby. Christine is here from Paris, and she is the 2026 Toni and Tim Urban Artist in Residence. Through this program, contemporary artists from around the world and around the country are invited to spend time with us here in Des Moines and transform the museum into a dynamic space for dialogue and discovery. Christine's practice combines drawing, film, sculpture, installation, and performance. She makes lush and labor-intensive hand-drawn animations, and yesterday we opened a survey of 5 of Christine's films in the Bookie Gallery in the lower level of our Meyer building. So please go see that when you have time. In her films, Christine imagines and invents visual forms for forgotten rituals, sacred landscapes, and oral histories. Her works are born out of travel and research in places as diverse as Jamaica, the Persian Gulf, Thailand, southern Iraq, and Haiti, locales where she meets and collaborates with local experts, musicians, monks, archaeologists, and then she brings their knowledge to life through the medium of drawing. Simone is one such expert, and they collaborated on Christine's newest film, The Fall, which we all just watched together as part of this afternoon's performance. So before I kick off the conversation, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to Toni and Tim Urban for founding the Urban Residency, and to Heather Urban as well. We are so grateful for your partnership, for your foresight in founding this residency. Since the residency, the first resident in 2016, we have introduced 8 artists to the Art Community Center, most recently Eliza Nissenbaum. So thank you so much, Toni, Tim, and Heather. I also want to extend our gratitude to the Meredith family for their legacy support of all aspects of the institution. We are able to offer free admission through the Art Bridges Access for All program and the Principal Foundation. Thank you to all of the members who help make free admission and these kinds of programs possible. Thank you to the Albertine Foundation, Villa Albertine, and Independent Curators International for the A. Tunt Dene Curatorial Fellowship, which enabled me to visit Christine in Paris last year. And then lastly, we also want to thank Michael Sean Harris, our composer and sound designer, Neela Ebanks, our creative and movement director, anthropologist Kenneth Bilby, and the Moortown and Charlestown Maroon communities. Okay, so now I will turn to Christine and Simone. And I thought maybe it would be good for me just to give a little context on the collaboration between the two of them. So they met several years ago when Christine traveled to Jamaica, and then eventually they worked together to make the film The Fall, which I believe they co-wrote together, released last year. And now they've worked together to bring this afternoon to life, bringing the film to life in a new way. And then just to say also that, Christine, you went to Jamaica to learn more about the Windward Maroons, and you initially learned about their work through the anthropologist Kenneth Bilby. And then Simone, you are a descendant of Queen Nanny, a warrior of the Windward Maroons who fought against slavery and colonialism in the 1700s, and is a female leader of the community. So I just thought maybe it would be good to ask Simone if you could tell us a little bit about the Windward Maroons community and your work to resurrect and remember their history.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for taking the time to be a part of this conversation. Not so much a performance, but a conversation. So, as Ashton said, I'm from Jamaica, and both my mother and father are from this place called Moortown in the Rio Grande Valley. I wasn't raised there because as indigenous people in Jamaica, there's always a push towards modernization, a push towards the promise of a better life, and a better life almost always requires you to forget your histories, forget the places where you're from. So that is the context within which I grew up in a city. As I got older and became more involved in culture, I didn't know why. I was involved in dance. I'm now retired. I was always a mover, using my body, and was always attracted to the drums. And so I found myself going back, visiting on my own, visiting family, making new friends in these indigenous communities, the Maroons. Those are indigenous peoples of Jamaica. And as I went back, I started to learn more about my family and would go further and further into the history of my bloodline to recognize my connection to this warrior chief who, against all odds, fought to protect her people, her community in the 1700s. Today, the community of Moortown and Charlestown, these are rural places. These are not big cities or even small ones, and they face the challenges of modernization. They face challenges of poverty, access to education, to resources. They're almost places that are left behind. That is the context of being indigenous in a modern island home like Jamaica. It's not a completely sad story because here I am, descended from this community, finding value in every story that I've come across from this part of the island. I think it's so valuable, and it actually is what sustains me daily in corporate life, in the city life, remembering this connection, remembering where I'm from, who I'm from, and saying their names.
A really powerful part is when you say, recall memory, know what came before, remember their sacrifices, and as you just said, say their names. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your journey to learn your ancestry, which had sort of, you weren't aware of it until later in life.
Right. Really a patchwork of stories. As my parents became more assimilated into city life and religion, there was this erasing of the histories. So I had to go and not just read books written by researchers like Kenneth Bilby, but find elders, find other people who would be willing to share the stories with me, the songs, the rituals, the prayers. And so for the past at least 10 years, I've just been putting those pieces together, almost like completing a puzzle. And with each piece that I find, the picture that comes together, it's making me feel whole, connected to something bigger than myself, something that existed long before me. The idea of makroma, that is the story. I've taken these bits and pieces and created, I'm imagining a time before this disruption, this deliberate erasing of our history as a family, as a community, what it could have been, while also acknowledging that the Maroons, a place like Jamaica, it's a place that's very diverse. And so it wouldn't be unusual for someone from African descent to be mixed with Chinese or mixed with European, Irish. Jamaica is a melting pot. So I'm, through the story of Lady Blake, reconciling all these nuances, because it's not just the story of Simone through Lady Blake. It's a lot of people's stories. But the key, it's about memory. And knowing that none of us just turned up here today. We all have a history. We all have people who sacrificed for us. And it's important to remember them. And it's important to remember their legacy as we live to leave our own legacies.
So in the film, The Fall, Christine uses voiceover narration both from Simone and from her great-grandmother, Sister Ruth. And I'm wondering, Christine, if you could explain what is happening in the film as it relates to Simone and her family and the ancestral landscape.
Hello, thank you everyone to be here. Thank you to receive us. Thank you, Ashton. Thank you, Jill. So Simone and Lady Blake brought me up in the mountain where the community of the Maroon lives and still lives. And so what I try to focus on, in terms of animation, I focus on the camouflage. So the camouflage was initiated by Queen Nanny, and it was a tactic for resistance. And so somehow we go through the landscape, and the landscape animates with the myth from Queen Nanny. So it's called the fall from Queen Nanny's fall, but it could be the fall of the British too. So they had many tactics, for example, not to be noticeable in the mountain. So you can see some backwards walking, for example, to leave traces that are not the real one. Or there's a scene where you see the water becoming a pot. And so it's Nanny's pot. And you couldn't see any traces of any cooking because that would be noticeable. So it's like the pot was creating the curiosity of the British, and they will fall off the, how do you say, ravine? Ravine. So I, let's say, reanimate stories that, of course, Simone will tell me, but also from what I have seen up in the mountain. So you have the Blue Mountain that is like, through Simone's narration, is coming to life. And detail and traces of the resistance. And so we start with the moon, an eclipse, so then we are like totally camouflaged in. And it was also very important for me to try to reactivate the spirit, the ancestors, in many different forms. This is why animation is created, through the metamorphosis of what you have felt. And so that's my role, let's say. And I'm very thankful to have met Simone, and she and Queen Blake has been very inviting. So thank you.
So remembering the past comes not only through historical research, but what, Simone, you call accessing embodied memory. And as I understand it, Lady Blake is part of that process. And I'm wondering if you can both explain Lady Blake Ophelia Stratum, and then also talk about how she works to reconnect with embodied memory.
Right. Thanks for that. Like, as I said in the beginning, it's, and perhaps it's an ongoing struggle, not to see it as a performance, a conversation, a performance that is a conversation, really. Lady Blake, as a persona, is really reaching, trying to leave you with something to contemplate, provoking thought about when was the last time I said the name of my mother, my grandmother, this family member who meant so much to me, this friend who meant so much to me, these people who they would have impacted our lives in different ways. All of us have stories like that. And there are ways in which, when we lose people, when they're no longer physically present in our lives, we forget them. That is a natural process of time. Time works hard at erasing things. How do we disrupt that? Lady Blake is about reminding us that time is actively doing this to our memories, and it's important that we hold on to these memories for as long as we can, because there's power in the memories. The Makroma recall memory as a blueprint for the future, so they know how to survive, so they're not making the mistakes of their ancestors. It's information. It's AI. It's ancestral information. Yeah.
And just thinking about being in the body and working with the body, the stilt walking is part of that as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Stilt walking, I started stilt walking in 2019 as a sort of, I'm not going to do the obvious. Jamaicans, yes, we can do music. I want to do something different. When I started, I didn't even realize that my father used to be a stilt walker. As a maroon boy, that this is what maroon indigenous children did for fun. They walked on stilts. In my excitement to go home to show my parents, look at this cool thing that I learned to do, that's when I learned that my uncles and my father used to do the exact same thing. And that's one of the things that had been erased, that was not shared with me, but that ancestral intelligence, the embodiment, the embodied memory, it's somehow activated. Thing about stilt walking, you have to be focused, finding your balance, being aware of your environment, being aware of the people around you to keep safe. You have to be present, and that presence means you're inside your body, feeling everything. And the first place you feel it is in your hips, for sure. Yeah. So it's been a sort of full circle on this journey back to my ancestral home, coming into ancestral knowledge, and then also sort of colliding with stilt walking, and how that's now also a medium that I'm able to work, continue the work.
And be a teacher.
Oh yes, I do teach others, if anyone is interested. We're in Kingston, Jamaica, every second and fourth Saturday. Hopefully, I can come back to Des Moines A beautiful place, by the way, with beautiful people. Clap yourself. Thank you for being so friendly and warm.
Okay, so I also wanted to ask about the cowrie shell, which everyone was given when they came in. Can you talk about the meaning of the cowrie shell?
I have cowrie shells. Lady Blake's has cowrie shells everywhere. The cowrie shells represent a memory, each one of them. You're gifted a cowrie shell as a reminder. It's a tangible thing. You can touch it, you can hold it, feel it, and you can be deliberate about a memory. Call it back to you, focus. I don't know how many people in here have watched Inception. That's my reference. In Inception, the star, he has this sort of thing that he spins, and if it falls off its axis, he knows he's dreaming or he's awake, something like that. Your cowrie shell is that kind of like small anchor that you can keep with you. And when you feel it, when you find it, you feel it, know that you're calling back into the present a memory that you may have forgotten. That is my hope, that it will be that for you.
Christine, I know your practice particularly focuses on examining sacred ritual and giving it visual form. And I'm wondering if, we talked a little bit about this already, but I'd like to ask about some of the images in the film and how they relate to that idea. So fruit, snakes, liquid, foliage, there's lots going on.
So I think before going to Kingston, you mentioned that I read some description from Kenneth Bilby, who researched on the community of the Maroon and especially on your ancestor, Simone. And I was thinking, I will never be able to see the ritual, or I will never be able to be in touch with those with this practice. But I was thinking, what could it be? So I think in your head you form some kind of invention to connect, maybe. And I had no idea I will meet Simone, who is the grandchild, the granddaughter of Sister Ruth, who is a very important person, an elderly person in the community. So how I come with serpent and spirit, it's the flow, probably. It's like you have to get through a flow, and because you find the material in the dark, in the eclipse, you try to, it was very important that the plant would guide the movement. So there's very specific movement, how they uncover themselves, how they reveal themselves. So it's also the water flow from the fruit to the fall. So everything comes back to the fall all the time. Also, we pre-recorded the film. That means that we went together, and with the sound engineer, who is a woman too, we went to the field, everything. The way we walk, you hear the step, you hear the fall, you hear the drum, you hear the abang. So everything was recorded back in Charlestown,
Mm-hmm.
and close to Moortown too. So I think it trains your brain to make them visible. Also, when we recorded the conversation we had with Simone, I will interrogate her about her life, her ancestry, and images came. You had the song, and I was like, oh, I see the eclipse coming. So naturally, those images were linked to your history.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh gosh, I have to add.
Please.
This spaceship, sort of a spaceship, right? As you can see, there's lots of fruits and vegetables there. that wasn't placed there because of necessarily a conversation. No, there wasn't a conversation or communication about this is what will be in the animation. This existed before, separately, and had been presented maybe 2 years before I met Christine in this way. And so to be able to not even have that conversation, and you're going through your creative process, and a lot of the imagery that is used for Lady Blake, a lot of what is necessary for that invocation, you understand it and you've animated it. I think that's important and a powerful moment for people who can't necessarily understand how we ended up working together or collaborating. I think we're still trying to figure it out, but it just works, yeah.
Well, on that note, could you talk a little bit about the process of collaboration and how you worked together and how you met?
We met in my office. I have a 9-to-5 job as a project manager, which is very, very boring. And a mutual friend learned about what Christine was in Jamaica to research, and you came to talk with me. Yes, yes. And you remember I even was able to say, I have my bottle of white rum, which you would have seen me use, because I always have that with me. And it's just been, I think we met on a Wednesday, and by that weekend, we were in Moortown for a Maroon festival, staying with my family. Christine had an opportunity to experience this culture, this rich history. The timing was just perfect, and we've been friends ever since. Yeah, I don't get to see her often. We don't speak often. I don't speak French at all. Her English is very good. And yeah, it's just been great.
And I think also it's a testament to Christine and who she is as a person that you felt comfortable to take her after knowing her for such a short amount of
Always.
time, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Always.
Yes, so I came to Simone office because the person who introduced us is actually the choreographer. She's very close to Simone. And I was at the university researching, and she told me, I was researching on Coromanti. And she told me, yes, I have a friend who's going to a Coromanti festival. And so I came and I read a little bit of rituals that, psst, you spitting rum.
Yeah.
And so I talked about this. And Simone just poured her drawer, and I'm like, it's you. So I asked permission to come with her. I show a little bit of my work, and I say, would you be comfortable if I was coming with you? And Lady Blake simultaneously wrote to me and said, yes.
Yes.
Will you tell us about the rum?
The rum, so it's a specific brand, Ray and Nephew, which is a very old brand in Jamaica. The true history, it's white rum, not dark rum, and maybe I should get the bottle to show. Yes, thanks. It's there. It's used for entertainment, for social, you can consume it, drink it with water, drink it with, I don't know what you would chase it with, fruit juice,
You've been trying to get me to drink it, and I'm scared.
Yes. It's very potent. It's over 100% proof. I see some Jamaicans in the audience. Are they Jamaicans? Yeah, know about the white rum, yeah. Yeah, so this is used in Maroon rituals as, like gives an electrical charge for, if you believe that we're all energy packed into different, our bodies, it's like a package, right? But we are energies. This clears the space for those energies to be present. I think that's the simplest way I can say it. So it is protection, it is acknowledging spirit that is present, and just, yeah, it gives that electrical charge, is the simplest way that I would put it. So I always have this with me, even for my stilts. I think in some spaces they might call it a libation. The spraying is libation, and acknowledging spirit, acknowledging ancestors, and saying, yes, I am here, you are here, I see you, thank you for being here. Yeah, so the spraying, it's not easy.
I bet.
Yeah, it took me maybe a year to learn how
Well, it's very elegant the way you do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christine, you, before you collaborated with Simone, you've collaborated with many individuals to make the films. There's a beautiful film on view downstairs where you got to know a monk and philosopher in Thailand. You also learned about ancient Sumeria, working with an archaeologist, and there's a beautiful film about the visuals of the ancient Near East. Can you just talk a little bit about why collaboration is so important to your practice and how that process works for you?
I started animation in 2003, so it's been a while, and I live in the US from 2006, and during my stay in the US, which is 16 years, I study again at Columbia University, which means many practice, many learning, and many form of thinking. So this came out of being studying at Columbia. And I think you're always triggered by what's going on in the world or by your research. So this is how I directly connect after my studies. So after the destruction of Syria, of the archaeological site, I read in the New York Times, that there was specific research for Iraqi archaeologists to come back to the land. So it's again about resistance and how to commemorate your ancestry, your history. So often it has to do with, I would say, the infinity of the image. For me, the Sumerian was how do you say, bury, before bringing the temple to life, how they bury the history. Sumerian are the one that invented writing. So the writing would be kept to be honored again and again. And I have to say there's a fascination for sacred learning that I'm trying to share. So it's often maybe things that are not visible, and I want to experience it, to work together, to share it in a way.
Yeah.
The infinity of the image. That's a beautiful phrase.
That's my goal.
I love that. Something else that you talk about is animation as a form of social critique. And I know social critique is also implicit in your work, Simone, and I'm wondering if both of you could talk a little bit about how that comes in.
So when I started animation, I did study theater design, and so I worked a lot in space, and I worked in Berlin because there were many Eastern theater. And I wanted to learn animation because I drew since a kid. And I learned animation, I got a grant with DDR animator, which means that they were doing children animation to critique. So they will have the critique there. And I was like, this is the medium to critique and to have the freedom how you critique. And I understood this from the beginning. And so when I went to New York also, it was also with the Warner Brother, but which is the history of animation came from jazz. It came from sound, because in the mute film, you couldn't, the beginning of sound was very complicated, but it's the animator that understood the rhythm and the freedom of sound, and they tried to capture the secret side and the underground of jazz. So this is who I've been working with. So it's a, what do you say, underground medium, minor medium that can be so strong. So that's my goal.
Yeah. The Caribbean, Jamaica has over 300 years of using art as social critique. We have a tradition of masquerade called Jonkuno. And the origins of Jonkuno was about enslaved people, enslaved Africans, once a year being able to gather to rest and be with each other. And they would dress up in costumes that would mimic what they were observing in their environments. So during the plantation economy, plantation society, this Jonkuno masquerade evolved. Early characters pointed to reflecting, the devil, heaven and hell, or animal life, cows, horses. And then as the society expanded, you had other characters. You even had Indians, the set girls, or those people who were coming in now to trade by ships, and what those people in society would look like. And they would make fun of them, right? But Jonkuno, as a social critique practice, is experiencing, as all things do, as societies become more modern, a slow sort of erasing, a slow forgetting of this practice. And I think I am, as I'm on my journey to remembering, it's most natural that I have gravitated towards masquerade to say what I have to say. And I also am a strong advocate for play. It seems, as you become an adult, play is reserved for children. Adult is about serious things. I'm pushing back on that because this is play, but it's also provoking thought. That's important. Walking on stilts, it is play, and it's also doing something for your body, which is important, keeping you present in your culture, keeping culture alive and not just as this dead thing that you need to preserve. So Lady Blake is an innovation on Jamaican Jonkuno, masquerade, the presentation of Lady Blake now. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Ashton. And to the Des Moines Arts Center also, for the opportunity to have Lady Blake on stilts here in this magnificent facility, to be able to share masquerade in that way, and then to be on stage as well, showing the different modalities. Yeah. So we have a long, long history of not being able to get up to a podium to speak, but we can dress up, we can use the medium of masquerade to reach people, to say what we have to say. So I'm just continuing that tradition. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We're now going to open it up to audience questions. So Jill has a microphone that she'll pass down to you, and there's one on each side.
If you just raise your hand, we'll pass it over to you. Laura, I see you have one in the front on your side.
Hi, thank you. This question is for Simone. When you were talking, I noticed kind of a tension between, you're talking about these smaller communities that have poverty, they want for more education and more opportunity, and you note that there is often an erasure of the past when those things come. And I feel like perhaps you're suggesting that that doesn't have to be the case, and a wish for an embodiment as of the past while going to the future. And my question is, what do you imagine would be possible if culturally all or more people were fully embodying their past as they moved into the future?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question. But thank you for it. In what could be possible? I can speak to what it has done for me as a person, feeling more grounded, feeling more, recognizing that there are more things that as people we have in common than we are different, because culture is that kind of thing, powerful, right? That there's no single story. And you can be on this small island in the Caribbean having one experience and one history, and on the other side of the world in the Pacific on another island, it's a similar story, you know? I think if more of us were aware of that, had more information about our culture, how rich it is, even the value of it to us as individuals, it could change not just us as people individually at the cellular level, but just the whole world, you know? It's powerful, and it could bring, it's something that brings people together. From an island like Jamaica, people travel to Jamaica just for the music and this thing called the vibe. What is the vibe? What is it? We don't know, but it's there. And you know, it's the culture. It's the culture. So if more of us understood it, and to understand the culture means to recognize the histories. Even as we're living today, I can't stop saying it, everyone in here, we will be an ancestor. We won't live forever. What kind of ancestor do you want to be? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? And who do you want to say your name? I hope I answered your question.
No pressure.
Hi, Simone. My name is Naya. I'm a fellow Jamaican and retired stilt walker. I am finding connections between the stilt walker Moko Jumbi figure, and a lot of that history and connection talks about the stilt walker being so tall that they can look into the past and to the future at the same time. And so I'm seeing that connection between what you talked about with memory and ancestor and everything. And so I just wanted to lift that up between this piece and what you were, the performance you did earlier. So Thank you so much for that through line. And I also have a question about the symbolism with the machete and knife that you used earlier. I found a lot in Jamaican households that that's always a presence, whether it's used or not. I'm so curious about its role in your performance today.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Thank you for the question. So the machete, the Cromanti, which is the language of the Maroons, the Cromanti name is the Afana. I always have my Afana with me. So a weapon, it was what the Maroons would have used. They didn't have guns. Once they had guns, it was because they would have been able to defeat the British soldiers in the bush somewhere, right? So they would get guns that way, but it was the Afana that was their weapon of choice. And actually growing up, my father would have one Afana under every bed. Not even sure, and different types. They're different, one under every bed, whether you knew how to use it or not, or whether it was used or not, and one Bible in every room. So I'm paying homage to that, understanding that, yes, this was a weapon, but also it's a symbol of resistance. Yeah.
It's funny, in the animation, I used the machete.
With the
Yeah.
And we didn't have that conversation, yeah.
Hi, Simone.
Hi.
I just want to say that I know you said it was a conversation, but in your performance, which is a conversation starter,
Yeah.
I really appreciated the time travel element.
Yeah.
Like you embodied what I saw on that stage was a woman who was a Maroon indigenous person existing in her power and space before colonization.
Yes.
It was beautiful. And I saw the violence of colonization as that happened. So that was stunning.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I would have hoped.
Yeah.
You would have, experienced.
And I had a question about what you're wearing. How much of that is your interpretation of the culture, and how much is it you just expressing yourself?
You know, I've been struggling to find images or references to fashion in indigenous or maroon spaces. And as the struggle is real. Lady Blake this is a collie cover, not a corset. And she inherited this from Queen Makilia. This is what would be worn to war, or in my imagination. Things are still being built out. Every element on it represents something in the same way that the shells represent memories in the headpiece. The gloves. The shaggies. This is what we call in Jonkunu pichi pachi, or I think in other parts of the world, maybe Jack in the Green. So this is usually more colorful, but the style of it with the different patches of fabric, this is paying homage to a traditional costume. This is my imagination, and I really loved Maleficent. See, it's play, right? And when this started out, it looked like more like horns, and I didn't love that. I needed more regal, because Lady Blake is very proud of her line of the keepers of memory, you know? So I needed to still communicate that. Perhaps the next time you encounter Lady Blake, her wardrobe might look different, but it's a journey. Yes.
And then another question I had was, I know that Jamaica has been colonized, and religion comes with that. When you were doing your research, and did you come across a lot of pushback or contrast between a Christianity and the traditional practices? Were people resistant to wanting to go back to think about that, or is it still very much a part of the culture?
Oh, absolutely, you're right. With colonization comes religion, and Jamaica is a very traditional Christian space. There's always that pushback. I've only ever, for example, presented Lady Blake once in Jamaica. I'm waiting for the right time to have the conversation. Even my family, they're a product of that push. The promise of the better life requires you to perform the good Christian, and any sort of acceptance or practice of traditional Afro-Caribbean culture is it's seen as a no-no. We actually in Jamaica have something called the Obia Act from the 1800s that actually polices, makes illegal the practice of obia being Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Jamaican centered religion, ritual practice, and including drumming. And for a time, drumming was illegal, not just in Jamaica, in many parts of the Caribbean. But Jamaica was a particular kind of space in this plantation economy, and as a colonized space, the acts of punishment that was meted out to enslaved Africans was, very, let's just say it reaches through generations. still.
I'm not going to take up a lot more time, but
Yeah.
I heard you say that you're a medium as well, so I was just imagining that maybe there's some tension around that, maybe in the community too. But I'm just curious about that. I'd love
Yeah.
to chat.
Medium, actually, I've just for the past 2 years started saying that, using that word, because I realized, hey, there are other people in the world who openly identify as a channel for spirits. My great-grandmother, Ruth Lindsay, she was a medium as well. But again, the erasing, no one had ever told me that. I had to find it in a textbook. Yeah.
Thank you. I just also want to say to Christine, thank you so much for your curiosity. It's beautiful, and it's so exciting to see those cultural messages from the past being presented again today and so richly. So thank you.
It's another medium side, you know.
Yes.
It's another way of going through the medium of animation is to show what is live through your body. It's through a different way, so we find each other.
So I have a question of Christine.
Hello.
Hello. This performance and your animation is an intersection between a story, a tradition, a past, and then your interpretation of that. Chicken and egg, what came first here? Were you seeking a medium that you could animate regarding this type of theme, or did you find her story and decide this is what you wanted to animate?
I found her. I couldn't do something else. This was decided with the minute we met. And then because she invited me to explore her story, she was so generous. I tried to have it the best I could to share her story, her ancestry, her country, and I'm there for this. So I hope you enjoy it.
So in just going forward, are you looking for other stories like this that you would animate, that would engage you?
No, it's different stories. It's like what you meet in your life. You know, Simone is the first person who is telling us stories and who is alive. Sometimes I have a Sumerian voice, like the King Gudea. So I reactivate the King Gudea's dream. So it could be totally different. I don't know what will be the next one, but I'm searching. And so you don't do an animation if you don't have a good story, because it takes so long, it takes so much of your time that I will never do that. That's why I don't really like animation, because I'm like, well, no. So you want to, yeah. So it's my first connection to a direct story.
Hi. Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Simone, for inviting us into this conversation. This ancestral conversation is deeply appreciated and received. I can't help but think, I know that you're from a Maroon community, and I can't help but think like epistemologically and etymologically about the tension between the word Maroon being rooted in like fugitivity, and some Maroon, like all these languages of African people being fugitives, and also the language of the Coromantee rooted in the continent, rooted in the Akan people of Ghana. And this is kind of an open-ended question. Would you like to sort of riff on that, talk about the importance of the intramural, the importance of and importance and tension of between what you're considered as a fugitive and also what your consideration of self, the internal dynamic of building community and building family and building legacy, and so those tensions of how you're labeled as fugitives and escapees, but in reality, there's something much richer and deeper and older in the experience of Coromantee, of the intramural, of internal governance, if that makes sense. So if you'd like to expound on that.
Thanks for that question. I think, the context in Jamaica around the word maroon, these are the people who fought for hundreds of years to the point where the British had to call for treaty, because you heard in the animation, to say it in Jamaican, them couldn't manage them. Yeah, right? So they had to say, we need to stop. We can't beat you at this, right? So this Cimarron, it's not a translation that you would encounter in Jamaica. In Jamaica, maroon is those people who lived in the mountains, escaped plantations, escaped into the mountains, lived as part of a community in the mountains. So it's maroonage, to isolate from the plantation society and create your own world. That is more of the context. And the tension actually in Jamaica is more around these treaties that were signed and whether or not the Maroons betrayed other enslaved Africans who were on plantations, who they were, by virtue of these treaties, they had to take them back to the enslavers if they were discovered. I must note, Nanny of the Maroons never signed a treaty, but there were Maroons who signed treaty. And it's difficult hundreds of years later to look back and judge a wartime decision, it was war. So the tensions in the context of Jamaica, it's really around having the knowledge that you are descended from the first freedom fighters in this part of the world, while also, did you betray your people? Did your ancestors betray your people? That is the tension. I'm choosing to move forward and not to stay in a place of judging my ancestors for decisions that they had to make to survive in wartime, Yeah, so that's where the tension is for me. And it's actually still, Jamaica is the kind of place where not many people openly or feel safe openly identifying as Maroon because of that tension. And for me, it's not just openly identifying as Maroon, Indigenous, but also as a queer woman. The tensions, I can't even begin to really explain. Black, queer, Indigenous, in a place like Jamaica.
Yeah. We have one more question up here. Yep. Excuse me.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing us into this space. I feel really fortunate and honored to witness. And so my question is around what you just alluded to is your full self, your identity, the embodiment of existing as a whole person. Can you talk a bit about what it is like to have those competing factors that you're confronting and being your full self? Some would call it duality, but it's more than that, it's multiplicity.
Yeah.
So project manager, queer woman, a channel, all of these things. How is it for you? How are you doing? How are you doing it?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, always on a call, always something to, I think for a long time I just worked with compartmentalizing. So on the weekends, so Monday to Friday, I'm in the office and I'm in corporate mode and I'm not wearing my piercing and I'm covering my tattoos. I did that for a few years. And then I started to show my tattoos. And it started to matter less and less about respectability. I felt like, you know, I'm going to step forward and be the person in this organization who is proud to say, I am Maroon, I am Indigenous, I subscribe to Afro-Caribbean culture, and I'm a qualified project manager. It's possible. And I'm queer. Guess what? Let's have some coffee, you know? Past maybe 5 years, it's gotten to that place. And it's not easy, because it means, you know, holding all these pieces at the same time as a whole person. And there are things that might happen along the journey that really work hard at like breaking you down. But moments like this remind me that it is possible to stand in my truth, to be a whole person, to talk about myself as all these things all at once. And it's okay. I'm not alone in it. I'm sure I'm not the only one, right? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Let's normalize being many different things. Yeah, we're not any one thing. And that's a lot of what that journey has shown me. Lady Blake is not any one thing. And working with Christine is actually also a reflection of that philosophy for me. It's not one way to tell a story, and you always have to be open to people, open to the opportunity to go further, right? One love.
Audience, thank you so much for being here. To these multifaceted, I like your word, Abina, women on the stage, you are amazing. Thank you for your time today, your performance, your art. Thank you very much. I do want to remind you that Christine's show is on view in the Pam Bass and Harry Bookey Gallery, and there are other films to watch. You know a lot now about the fall, but there are 4 films yet to discover. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.